June, 20th? 2022.
Turn your mic on.
Reading of the district promise statement. I'll do it. We promise to provide a supportive environment where unique learning experiences empower all for their chosen life adventure. Number 3. Items for the agenda. Do we have any additional items for the agenda? Okay. No items for the agenda. We'll look for a motion to approve the agenda. Kenderheen. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Elke. Any other questions on the agenda? We'll vote. All those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. We've got 6, right? Motion passes 6-0. Item number 5, recognition of visitors in open forum. We have nobody on open forum. We have a couple visitors from Tower here. Welcome. They'll be in the reports and presentations. I don't know if they're speaking or not, but okay. At that time. So let's move towards that. Number 6, reports and presentations.
We don't have student representatives here. They get their summers off, relaxing. So the next thing we'll move into is food service report from Taher.
Thank you. So my name is Judy Cameron, Senior Vice President for Taher. Obviously, we presented our proposal for the bid for food service beginning with 22-23. Considering this last year, the year before, and then some of the things that we know that we wanted to make changes with in the proposal. Hopefully, as you reviewed it, you saw those. We did have a conversation with both the superintendent and the business manager to make sure that even prior to this, we talked about some of the things that we knew, certainly as Sarah resigned her position, and we waited to get through the bid process so that we could find the right candidate to manage your program. That we have a list of, let's say, marching orders, if you would. It is the district's lunch program, and so we want to make sure that what we do is in combination with the program that you expect for the kids of the district, staff and faculty. The proposal presents a lot of different things, if you would, in the spirit of stepping up communication and ultimately things that we believe will help improve food service. We actually listed a couple things in the cover letter. One, we found great success with a welcome bag for particularly elementary students. We do all students K-12, but in the elementary, parents being invited, we invite them to lunch, and we talk to them about what the program offers, so that they understand when somebody says what is the meal, what that is. It will be more important, I believe, this next year, coming off of the pandemic and all students eating free, because parents, at least that don't qualify for free or reduced and have to pay for lunch, we're going to have to make sure that they see it as a value, the kids like what we're serving ultimately, and we can serve them a menu that makes sense for them. It isn't, we start out with a corporate cycle, but it really is about what fits the students of Janesville as opposed to the rest of our company, be it the south or the west or the east, if you would. One of the other pieces is to really survey kids, and not that we can't do it sooner if that makes sense for something else that we want to work around. But typically we find if we do it in the first 90 days, we get a sense for really likes, dislikes, things that we need to improve from our customer base, and then put a plan together to work toward that. And then we'll do it again in the spring as a follow-up. The first one in the fall is going to be key. Ultimately, when you look at the presence of the chefs. We want to make sure that, same difference, at least for the high school students, middle school as well, that they actually work with the kids and can get likes and dislikes as well, so that we really are engaged and the students in particular feel like it is their program, because that's what it is all about. One of the other things that we've discussed is that if it fits into the way superintendent has his admin team meetings scheduled, at least periodically, that we combine the food service director from on-site and they become part of that group, oftentimes even from a principal standpoint, if there's a structured environment for them to say, this is what our promotions are going to be this next month, or what would you like us to do? It opens a dialogue, and there's not maybe such a division, or implied division, if you would. Our goal is really to bring food service out behind the walls of the kitchen and the cafeteria, and really start to do some of the education as well. Older kids can come from a chef presence, can come from our chef council. Heidi can speak maybe a little bit to that. She's been on a couple of our chef council trips and how they bring that forward to the older kids for sure. And then younger kids in the classroom, for sure. We let do a nutrition segment, and then let, if you pick 4th grade, for instance, your 4th grade classes can plan menus, and then those are on the menu, so that they can see how a normal menu, starts with us and it goes to them, and kids get really excited about that as well. So National Nutrition Month is another, and then one of the others to continue too is when we look at things that we used to do or haven't really done since people can't gather and come together, is really to look at open houses, involvement with parent groups, again, just to stay engaged and make sure that what we're planning is really what the vision for the district is, so that at the end, I believe maybe there's a division, and there really shouldn't be. We're behind, if you would, as a couple of the ideas, and some of it from a on-site manager. That's really to support them and make their job easier. Really, they're the face of the program for us and for you, and so that's really the way we like to keep it. It really is about what happens here, not necessarily from the company perspective at all. Hey, you want to talk a little bit about the Chef Council, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about the bid part, and then see if you have any questions.
Excuse
That
me,
may be on the spot.
1 second. Hey,
Yes.
Jeremy? Yep. Could we shut some of these fans off, maybe, so it's a little easier to hear? Well, afterwards. Sorry. It's just... That's a lot better. At least for me.
What?
What?
Sit
I
down.
wasn't talking.
I know, I think I'm losing my hearing.
Chef Council, got it. Okay, so the Chef Council trip is something that I have been able to go on now twice, which is absolutely wonderful. I'm Chef Heidi Osterhaus, by the way. I've been in the district several times this year. I helped some of the transition when Sarah left. But the Chef Council trip is a trip that the Chef Council takes once a year in the spring. This year we got to go to Rome and Tunisia. And so what we do is we travel to these destinations, and we go into the food markets, and we literally just eat the food, take the food. It's all about the experience, the culture, and then we bring that back. And so what we'd like to propose is to be able to do that here at JWP. So whether I'm going into the classroom, whether we bring those recipes into your kitchen and we do samples, or we do a whole menu, we base the program really on what you guys would like to see and what you would like to do, and then we kind of make that work. So I've actually been, this last week I was able to go and do just a bunch of creating, and I've come up with 3 different recipes that I was able to bring back from Tunisia, which is where I was so excited to be. Rome was very spiritual and lovely, and the food is so fantastic, and everybody kind of knows Roman food. We didn't have a lot of items in our library from Tunisia, so I wanted to kind of just experience that. So that's what I've done, and so I would like to bring that definitely to JWP. It depends on what you guys like to see. We would talk to principals, maybe get into your FACS class. I've been in your FACS class in the past, able to share some stuff there. I've done the sushi concept here pre-COVID, so we would like to kind of get past that and go back to doing the things that we absolutely would love to be able to do again now that we're
So from the standpoint of the food service director position, ultimately, we'll advertise for the position, we'll do the initial screening, and then basically to the, some of the time there's a candidate that is just at the top, and then there's a gap, if you would. And so we ask the district if they, how many candidates they want to talk to, would take recommendations. We do advertise internally and externally because it is important that obviously if they work for Taher, they will understand the culture and be part of the company. However, they need to really support and make sure that what they're doing here with the staff is literally what the district has asked us to do. They're really the face of food service for both of us, and the success really, as evidenced with what certainly we've done with Sarah side, because if they're not doing a good job and they're not vested in the school district, then we certainly won't go anywhere for sure. So we'll start that process. Then from a standpoint of training, over the summer, we actually have a major conference in July. And as part of that, we take our new folks and we actually give them a separate orientation. In some cases, they come to us not understanding school lunch at all. That isn't oftentimes what we're looking for, though, either. You can teach somebody what's a reimbursable lunch. You can't teach them to be a people person. And so it's really about people skills. It's really about how they're going to work with the employees, how they're going to work with all of you and us, and certainly school lunch a plus. But oftentimes, if they just have a passion for food and service and people, then it's a win all the way around. Certainly, from a financial standpoint, the budget presented based on the RFP was done with the fact that we've been on the seamless summer option, no paid free and reduced. So once we get the meal prices, then we'll take a look at that and just have to refigure where the sales come from. Ultimately, it's no different than our prior contracts, which is guaranteed, and making sure that we get the district where we said we would go financially as well. I think that's at least the major pieces. Certainly, if you have any questions.
I guess the biggest thing that I have I had 3 kids go to in high school here, and the biggest complaint that they had was quantity and quality of the food. So how is that going to be addressed?
So quality, as we get the new person started and then work with the staff, we want to make sure that with the groups that are eating and the way we're cooking, that we're not cooking something at the beginning that the last student is going to have to eat. Oftentimes that's when we see some of the deterioration. Some of it could be the way the recipe was actually written and developed, and so we want to make sure we stay on top of that as well. And then quantity, try to do the best we can, but that's obviously regulation, government driven. And once in 2010 the new regulations went in, there's minimums and there's maximums. Used to be that there was a minimum, there wasn't a maximum, and so certainly kids can take all and anything they they still can include the fruits and vegetables. That just doesn't tend to be sometimes the most favored and popular piece of the meal. But literally to the extent that we can do self-service,
Oh, I'm sorry.
What spectrum are we at with the minimum and maximums? Are we like at the maximum level that they can get, or?
yes.
You were actually, unfortunately, yeah, sorry. When Sarah departed and we kind of started looking at the program, unfortunately, we were over where we were supposed to be. And so then we kind of leveled it off and tried our best to make sure that we were just meeting the maximum amount at that point, never the minimums, right? So it's a place between, it's the sodium that we have to be really careful with. It's those components, it's the whole grains, it's that we have to be really careful with. And that's why you maybe saw a little bit of a difference. And then it was also trying to reintroduce the recipes that maybe we weren't quite doing prior to. So we were trying to do a little bit of changing and trying to make it go back to a really great program. And there is some teaching involved with that. So that's gonna be a main priority.
So the other thing, the regulations are written by week. So in some cases, there might have been, let's say, a menu where if you take it by day, I'll use the word skimpy, one could come back and say it's written to me, there's a whole bunch on the tray, which starts some of the, it didn't look like there was hardly any food. On those, there really isn't, although we have to stay in a box, kind of, there isn't really any reason why you can't go over as long as we ran the week. We're close to where we need to be. And like Patty said, we always stay to the max, not a tinge over.
Prior to COVID, was there a salad bar that the kids could go and kind of pick out whatever they wanted for vegetables? Do we have that anymore?
You do have that, and you did have that. So as they come through the lunch line, there was the main entree, and there was always 2 hot choices, and then hot vegetable of some sort. So whether that was corn or beans or potatoes, whatever the hot vegetable of the day was. There was 2 fruits, usually a canned and a fresh. So then that's where they were doing the strawberries, the pineapple, those different types of things. And then there, as they came through, you guys have a salad bar that goes right up to the cashier station, and that's where all of the vegetables were housed. And so there was lettuce and carrots and
chiller, but they said that was supposed to be here end of July, or end of June, but they moved it back to mid-July. They'll have everything ready, so it'd be a day hookup once that comes. That's all I've heard for sure, is the chiller, but somebody mentioned something in passing today, but I'll get more details tomorrow at our construction team.
We pre-ordered a lot of stuff, right?
We did pre-order
That was here.
that. Is, yes, that has been coming in and they're installing as fast as they can. If anybody wants a tour, we can do a tour outside of construction hours. So, we have received our food service bid and our transportation bid. We had Topper here presenting tonight, which was wonderful. We are still working with Tom at, with the Palmer Transportation. So Tom Watson has been leading that charge for us and negotiating with them. So we have a meeting set up on Thursday with Palmer and the transportation company that gave us a bid. So that'll come up for approval in the July meeting. We do have bus transportation through the end of July, so we have all of our summer school classes and everything covered for transportation already. Then the final thing I have is safe routes to school. You have the new drawing in front of you. I received this late last week, Friday I think it was. The only change is that they did move it to our property behind the track shed and the holding pond that's there. That's the only change that was made in comparison to what we've already approved previously.
Did we have to give a, you have to do a formal appreciation, yeah, for the easement approval?
Yes, we need formal approval for that.
When is this supposed to start?
I have not gotten a start date yet, but I wanted you guys to be able to see this before we did any approvals, so we put the approval on next month's agenda.
And some of them they had to build to 5 feet, right? Or 6 feet?
Well, anything that's going on our property is an 8-foot wide, 8-foot wide. Some of the sidewalks that they're redoing, they'll have to make sure that they're ADA compliant, so they have to be 5 feet wide.
Is the city required to clear those, or is it the
Homeowners have to clear sidewalks in front of their residence. The city is required to clear anything on school property.
And I'm guessing up here, the trail that connects up here, that's the city. will be
That's the
taking-
city also.
Yeah.
You're talking about up across North Street,
Yeah,
correct?
Northwood's coming in.
Yep.
Yeah. Just a question, because I don't know if this was ever discussed or not, but is there any lighting that's going to be from that Northwoods? Because there really isn't any houses there, you know, walking. Has the city thought about putting a 1 or 2
Yep.
light poles or something there, or?
Nothing's been discussed that I'm aware of.
mean,
Because I
we're-
asked about it
Okay.
along our property also.
Yeah, because I mean, at least around our property, there is some lighting with the houses there a little bit, but up here, there's really no houses besides, you know, Westfall's there,
Right.
so, just something to think about. Maybe it doesn't happen this year or whatever, but,
Well, you would think if they're digging everything up, they want to do it all at
Should be.
once.
but it's,
I can,
it's gonna be.
I'll ask
extra
Clinton
dollars.
about it.
Okay.
Any questions for me?
I got a couple if you got. We talked about the possibility of expanding that weight room. Are we still working on seeing what that's coming in as?
We, yeah, we are. We met with Dave Gibson, the lead engineer from SiteLogic last week. We went through everything with him. They gave us some ideas. Thursday, I think it was, Mike and Dave met with the architects, and they were working on what it would take, what we could do, and they were gonna get us a bid this week on how much
Okay.
it would cost to do that. That we should have information later this week, for sure by the building and, or no, that's activities meeting. We have buildings and ground at our next meeting, but it'll be, I'll have you information to the school board before that time.
Are you thinking that'll be done by school time, if it all looks good and we're moving forward?
That should be done by school time if it all looks good and we move forward. Because that's taking 2 walls out, taking 2 toilets out, 2 sinks, and we're gonna replace 1 toilet with a sink, and cutting a hole in another wall.
What is it, new bids, new contracts, or is it the group that's?
It'd be the group that's here.
That just done as a change order, I'm guessing.
Yep, it'd be done as a change order.
So what's the plan if we take that out for visiting schools then?
Visiting schools would use the boys and girls locker room, just like we use the boys and girls locker rooms when we go to visiting schools.
With an expansion, is there gonna be new machines or anything put in there, or different machines?
We have some ESSER dollars that we could use for outside of our school day, where students and staff are using them, so it is possible that we could use some of the ESSER $2, the 161 fund that we have, to add some machines and different things to the weight room. I have a bid for those, so weight room equipment is not cheap,
No, I know
you know.
Yep.
I heard somebody was gonna donate.
I did too.
Oh, you want all my old stuff?
Probably better than what we got.
You good with that?
Yep, that's
No.
all I had, so,
Yeah, I'm good.
thank you.
Yep.
So, ready to move on to 6D, Science Curriculum Pilot Review and Adoption Committee. I assume that's Claudia?
Yes.
Would you open that presentation? And I just appreciate it if you open it for please. Thank you. So tonight I'm just gonna go through the curriculum review that we did this year with science, and it was K-12, but really with that focus on elementary, because we have some wiggle room within our high school. So I'm gonna share with you.
Matt has a clicker, so you can click through it as you go.
Thank you.
Just gonna turn it on the side here.
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
We piloted 3 programs this year: Generation Genius, Educurious, Amplify, and then we'll talk about what our recommendation is for adoption for you to approve tonight. So Krista Lickey in 6th grade was kind enough to pilot these 3 programs, and she took her year's worth of standards and divided them up amongst the 3 different curriculum that we went through to see which would be best for our learners. Alex King, who was with us last year, decided to help with, he taught 7th and 8th grade science, so he decided to help by piloting a little bit as well. And so I'll share that information with you as we go here. So the first program that we piloted was Generation Genius. This was an all-digital program. It goes for grades kindergarten through 8th grade, and they originally started as a supplemental program, and they are now broadened so you can use it as a core curriculum as well. It's standards-based, and they have videos and reading material and quiz games and do-it-yourself activities that are facilitated by the teacher. There was a free version that was piloted by our 1st grade teacher, Megan Sheeran, the year before, and she recommended it for the pilot because she really had good success with it in her classroom. So there were 3 units that our 6th grade classroom tried out, and there were 4 different standards that covered. And on the bottom here, you can see the percentage of students that met or exceeded the standards. So you can see, for example, standard 1, 86% of the students either met or exceeded that standard upon assessment. So you can see the overall results there. The focus with these lessons was the solar system and what we did for each of these programs is we first looked just what do we think that it looks like criteria-wise just by taking a look at it first glance. And then after going through the pilot and testing out the units, then we went back and Krista and I looked at these items again and then gave it an accurate score after having used it. So there's a possible of 20 points on this criteria, and Generation Genius scored 14 out of 20 points. And so what we're looking at are things like, is it phenomena-based? Is there coherence? Does it flow well? Are there effective teaching materials there, and support for students with diverse learning needs, and support to monitor student progress? So 14 out of 20 was pretty well. You can see there's a couple areas of limitations, and that was growth opportunity and just really having that ability to branch out for students when they didn't quite understand something, having that differentiation built within. And also being able to really utilize their assessments. The assessment part with all the curriculums, which is not uncommon, was pretty weak, but the content itself was really strong. So here's a teacher reflection that Mrs. Lickey provided for us, so I'll just highlight a couple of these things. Some of the strengths were there was clear alignment to NGSS, which is the next generation science standards, which is what the Minnesota State Science Standards are based off of, so that's a really good thing. The lessons are all written in the 5Es framework, which is really an engagement method approach to learning, so that was a bonus. And there are extension activities that were available, and for the readings, they could be read aloud to students. That was a built-in feature, so that was nice. Some limitation, we felt like it lacked facilitation of student thinking, so really the new science standards are really heavily focused on claims, evidence, and reasoning, and that part was really, the teacher would have to facilitate that. It wasn't necessarily built right within. Again, the assessments didn't directly assess the student learning. And here at JWP, our teachers have such a good background on assessments and being able to identify where students are in their understanding. And so I don't think that that would be hard for them to fill that in, but the work definitely would have to be done. Student reflection. So we surveyed the students after each program to see what their thoughts were. And here were some of the highlights from our students. They felt like the lessons helped them to achieve their learning goals. 100% of the students said that the lessons were at a comfortable learning level, and 92% of the students said Generation Genius gave them opportunities to grow as collaborators and communicators. Some areas of growth that they pointed out were they'd like more experiments, which they said for everything. They like that the best, so it's good that they want more of that. And they'd like more of the science videos, more collaboration, and a wider variety of spokespeople and videos. So some highlights of their perspective. The second tool, the second curriculum that we looked at was EduCurious. This is very different. We picked 3 very different programs. EduCurious is a project-based curriculum. This was for grades 6 through 8. And they kind of say that technology is their friend, real-world experts are our allies, and what they really try to do is they try to give you a problem that's real-world and then build students' capacity in that area to be able to solve that problem, which is kind of a fun approach. So there were 2 units, and this gives you an idea of the real-world connection. Climate engineers was what the 6th grade students participated in, and fossil detectives was with the 7th grade. So you can see here that the student learning results, and it's much lower. This is a different approach for learning too, so there's that to consider. When we looked at this tool, just at first glance, we thought, okay, maybe a 14 out of 20 for meeting these areas within science. When we went through after, we scored it as a 10. So 10 out of 20, which is not super strong. So that was kind of a red flag area for us. Some strengths and limitations. Strengths, reliable, relevant resources, lots of group work, easy to follow, and it had a heavy focus on claims, evidence, and reasoning. Limitations, though, is all in a PDF. There was no book, so you just had to scroll and scroll and scroll or print. So that's a downfall. So everything was a Word doc that had to be converted to Google, so that wasn't real convenient. no student book, and so it was really long. So each of these units was about 6 weeks long, or at least a month. So that could be considered a downfall. And from the 7th grade perspective, some positives were the card matching activities. So that was just an example of a strategy that the students really enjoyed. And it was well organized, included slideshows. So those were some highlights. Some extra limitations that were mentioned from their perspective. No additional or relevant enrichment. So there was no differentiated materials provided. And no labs, which is a definite downfall. So when we look at student reflections, just some highlights on here. 90.2% of students felt that EduCurious helped them to learn the standards and learning goals, so that's how they felt about it. Almost 88% enjoyed the partner and group work activities, and 83% felt that EduCurious lessons were at their learning level. But some areas of growth, more videos, online component, there was no online component, so. And just a couple highlights from the 7th grade. The one that stood out the most here that we were kind of humored by was, I still learned what I didn't want to learn. So that's, I think, a good sign. Some other areas of growth, though, it's just, they felt like it was really fast paced, even though the units were long. So looking for something that's going to be a little more comfortable for students learning. The third piece that we tried was Amplify. Now, Amplify is more of your standard box set curriculum where you get the textbooks from the well-known companies. So this is a K-8 curriculum. It blends hands-on investigation, literacy-rich activities, and interactive digital tools. So this one has both the printed materials and the digital tools. And Ed Reports is a tool that's used where they go out and they vet curriculum pieces. And this got all green for their 6th through 8th part, and that is the best you can get. So it's definitely one we wanted to look at. So we had several standards. We're going to focus mostly on the 6th grade, but I'm going to add in some comments from 3rd grade and 7th grade because they also worked with this as well. But lots of standards here covered within the 6th grade, and you can see there's an array of student achievement there, but not maybe looking as high as what we'd like. At first glance, it looked like 18 out of 20, pretty high. So when we're looking at, is this one we should consider? It looked like it checked a lot of boxes. Then after, on reflection, only 12 out of 20. So again, pretty low. So just some reflection pieces. Students really understood pieces that were taught. They understood the causes of storms in this case. They were shown that through demonstrations. They had some good structures to pieces for students, like vocabulary, and really connecting that evidence piece. But, students love the partner work, the collaboration, the videos. They like the multiple, methods and modes, of course. Some limitations, though, they struggled using their data for evidence. I don't think, as Mrs. Lickey and I talked, that was really necessarily because of the curriculum itself, but because it's a new approach, and so that's something that kind of told us, hey, we need to teach students how to do that. But there was kind of a lack of clarity with the digital platform, and that could be because it was new too, but it did seem kind of cumbersome for the students to use. So 3rd grade, they did a pilot of this as well, just one unit, but they didn't do the digital piece. They only did the printed materials. And it was interesting because the 6th and 7th graders didn't really care for this program overall with that digital platform. But the 3rd graders had a great experience with it and loved it with just the print materials. So it's kind of interesting perspective. So here are a bunch of strengths you can see up there. Some examples is, they thought it was fun. They liked the buildings and projects and the demonstrations. Any of those hands-on pieces are good. And there was nice built-in reflection pieces there. Some limitations, lots of worksheets because they didn't use the digital platform, but they would like more projects, and they actually asked for more technology. So it's all about finding that balance, you can see. From 6th grade, from there, couple pieces here. 77.1% of students said Amplify helped them to learn their goals. 60% of students said that that the learning was comfortable for them at a comfortable level, and 83% said they had opportunities to communicate and collaborate. But again, they're asking for more videos, hands-on activities, just that a good balance is what students are looking for. That's kind of in a nutshell what you can see. So when we look at comparing these three, when we went to the committee and talked to the science committee, which was made up of representatives of basically every other grade level, all the way through elementary and then all the high school science teachers, they really landed on wanting to choose Generation Genius and not choosing Educurious or Amplify. So when we look at that as a whole, we can see the pilot scores again out of 20. You can see that Generation Genius was the highest. The average student achievement, if we just collapse those numbers just to kind of compare, you can see that for meeting and exceeding for Generation Genius, 86%, where Educurious and Amplify were only in the 60s, so the student achievement was much higher, so that was something that kind of swayed them as well. It's also Generation Genius is very easy to use and implement, very cost effective. So what the committee decided was for kindergarten through 6th grade to use that as the core curriculum. And then for 7th and 8th grade, they would use it as supplemental, and 9th through 12th also supplemental, and they would focus their teaching on POGO, which is process-oriented, inquiry-based type of instruction that's been used in high school that they want to carry down all the way to 7th grade. And one thing just to add to this, that this resource could be used for a new course that's being developed. I worked with Paige Bellig and Eric Kehoe and supported them with their idea to create this phenomenal inquiry course, which will be for 9th through 12th students who receive special education services. Our elementary worked to write rubrics already based on these science standards this year, and the high school has taken and adopted those as well. And then they thought that they could use Generation Genius within this course as well. So one thing that is kind of exciting about this is to get a site license for Generation Genius is only about $1,500. To go with something, for example, like Amplify would have been about $50,000. So what we've decided to do is to create a science budget like we have for the high school, which is $5,500, and create that for the elementary. And that way, if we need to purchase more supplies for labs, we can do that. So in total, we're looking at about $7,000. So we had budgeted $50,000, so it'll be a $43,000 savings. So our timeline here is to solidify that purchase as of July 1. Budget for those investigation supplies, which I've already been working with Matt on. And then create local professional development for the fall workshop. Our teachers, like I said, have already written their science report card rubrics, but to build in that vertical teaming so that they can make sure everything flows really well. And then mid-year, start integrating in some professional development that's not based specifically on the curriculum, but that's based on how to teach the new science standards. That is that claims, evidence, and reasoning piece, that science inquiry. And so just to give them that extra shot of that mid-year so that they can stay focused on that inquiry base, focusing on the phenomena. And then for implementation, coaching. Coaching is instrumental in making this work come to life. And what they'll need to focus on with that next year is the assessment development, because the assessment component is not strong with this program or actually any of the 3 programs we looked at. So that's what I recommend that they do during their coaching sessions each month, is be rewriting those science assessments. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Very thorough.
Thank you,
Exciting.
Claudia. The work you've done on this is outstanding.
All right, move on to 6E, budget information.
As you can see, our enrollment for, as we ended the school year, looked good. Where am I at? There we go. numbers stayed the same the last few months of school, which was wonderful for us. So, and what we're using for a budget number next year is 655, correct, Matt? So where we're at total was 667 at the end of this year. So I think we've done a good job budgeting conservatively for the future.
What's the senior class going out and or 61, what's the new kindergarten numbers?
62.
And we only budgeted 46 for kindergarten, so I just looked at it.
Yep. These are this year's numbers yet, but the numbers coming into kindergarten is 62.
What's the numbers coming in ninth grade from Trinity?
Not
Probably
many,
not many.
2 or 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it
Wow.
wasn't a lot. I think, how many were there total? 8?
7.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
3 of them went
Wasika?
Wasika because they play soccer over
Hockey.
there. Yeah, hockey or soccer or something. So,
So the kindergarten numbers, is that including the, and I forget what we call it.
Bulldog Academy?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so do we know how many are going into the Bulldog Academy or not yet compared to?
I don't off the top of my head.
But we're still probably doing three
3 sections
three
of
sections of
kindergarten,
kindergarten and probably 1 or 2 of Bulldog
one
Academy?
of Bulldog Academy.
Okay.
If I remember right, I think 13 is what's sticking in my head for Bulldog Academy, but don't quote me on that for sure.
I have it quoted, 13.
Okay.
We'll probably have a big one sometime. Probably big.
Matt, anything with historical cash balance?
No, I was just, we're kind of continuing to rebound here as we get some of our tax dollars coming in. We get some payments in May from the counties. But then come July, we'll be paying some bond payments and we have summer payoffs. So it comes in and goes out kind of quickly this time of year. As you can kind of see in years past, we've had the drop off from June to July. So, but nothing to be worried about at this point. Just kind of the ebbs and flows of our cash. So.
All right. No other questions on that? Let's move on to item number 7, approval of the consent agenda. Do you have some stuff on this?
Disposal of the smart boards. What we've done is we ordered 42 new interactive TVs. Our smart boards are outdated and no longer functioning the way they need to. We were able to get a good deal on Prometheum boards. We had one in here at the end of the school year for teachers to go in and interact with, touch it, and manipulate things on the screen. They really liked it, so we were able to order those. They should be here at the beginning of August for us to start installing them. And we thought a way to possibly recoup some of that money for purchasing them is to sell the smart boards that we have in as is conditions if there's somebody that wants to come in and purchase them. So Mike was working with Matt to advertise them and sell them. We have 23 smart boards, 23 projectors. So that would go out for closed bid purchase.
All one lump sum or individual?
Well, we're just, we'll have people say, here's what I'm willing to pay and here's how many I want. And then we'll sell each one to the most money we can. So,
Ones we don't sell we can get rid of in different ways.
right.
There's companies that will take them to dispose of them properly. There is something in the write-up about for lower income families that they could possibly get a price break for them too.
Is there anything in town that could utilize it? Like library or something?
I don't know if the library could.
Church?
Church possibly. Trinity could possibly use a couple. So. The CODA, that's our, I got Certified Occupational Therapist Assistant.
I can't, there's no access. I've clicked on it, it says access, I need to gain
Yeah, I couldn't
access.
either.
So, in the, so you could maybe update
Okay,
that so we
yep,
can.
I'll
look
update
at
it so you can see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much is that? 34,
34, and we pay half of it.
17.
Yep.
And what is this?
She's our certified occupational therapist assistant. So she comes into the building and works with students on their needs for fine motor skills, cutting, writing, holding a pencil correctly. So she'll work with those students. So I'll update that so you guys can see it. And then our MSBA and our MREA, those are memberships that we do each year to give us access to both those organizations, which give us a lot of good information and keep us up to date on policies and what's happening out in the rural education.
For the personnel changes, does Lidkey need to be in here?
Lidkey, okay, with that, Ryan Lidkey's on there as an hire as a math teacher,
Yeah.
but he wants to be hired by the board before he resigns.
Gotcha.
So, and which I totally agree with. It's always
Good
better to
point.
secure something before you leave your position. So
Is a reason Jeff's on here twice?
Jeff is on there twice
No,
because
for resignations.
yes, he's on there twice because he's resigning as assistant football coach.
No, it's
Oh.
social studies twice.
Then it shouldn't be on. Social studies should not be on there twice. As a resignation?
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, I typed it in there twice and it shouldn't have been.
And then what about the leave of absences? Do we have a time frame of how long?
That would be 1 year.
Okay.
And she's teaching within our, she's a paraprofessional with a teaching license, so she's teaching special ed again this year for us. So she
So it's
wants,
a leave of absence from the paraprofessional?
from the paraprofessional, but she's still working
Okay.
in the building as a teacher.
Okay.
When it comes to the contracts for the coaches, I know every year or after every season, we're asked to do surveys and stuff like that. Are those surveys taken into account when deciding if we're gonna bring them on again? Or is that something that, as a school board, we can see the results?
As a school board, there shouldn't be a reason for you guys to see the results. What we're gonna do with the the AD position is that will fall back under the superintendent. It's under the high school principal right now. That's an area that I've been working on and looking at lately, and I've went through a lot of the results from coaching or survey results from families that have come in, from students that have come in, and that's something we need to tidy up, because if we're not going to use the information we're gaining, then there's no reason to do the surveys. So
Right.
we need to figure out how we're going to use that and use it correctly in order moving forward. So,
When you say ones that come in, is that all parents that have a student participating in every
yes.
student athlete? So they all get it, it's just
They
that
all
we're
get it.
reviewing all that have completed it.
Right.
Gotcha.
Now that spring season is over, I know I got the one for spring season last week. So,
Have we ever evaluated the participation rate on that, like when we first started it to like now? It's dropped off.
not that I'm aware of.
Curious.
We have numbers every year, but
Right.
as
Haven't
as
compared
part
it.
of that evaluation, no.
On the new postings that are gonna be going out, what kind of time frame are you, I mean, I think what, you have to post for like 2 weeks, isn't it?
We have to post for at least 5 days,
Okay,
but the principal ones, 5 days are up today. So I've started looking at them, and we want as quick a turnaround as we can, but we also want to make sure we're getting the quality candidates. So what, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll post it, and we post on our website, we post on Indeed, and we post on a education website called EdPost through St. Cloud State. So a lot of times we'll go in, and once we post it, it goes to the top of the list at EdPost. So we'll go in 2 or 3 days later and repost it with EdPost to bring it back up to the top of the list so everybody sees it. So I've already done that once with the high school principal one, and my plan is to go in tomorrow morning and repost it with EdPost, bring it back up to the top, and start bringing candidates in for that. I'd like Jeff to be back from Ireland before I start interviews, because I'd like him to be part of the interview process.
maybe he's gonna kiss the Blarney Stone and stay over there.
I don't know, but the golf courses over there look really nice from his pictures.
We have no internal candidates for those positions, correct?
We have possible internal candidates.
What is the process for hiring? Are you putting any committees together? Is it gonna be you and Jeff? What's the
It'll
plan
be
with
a
that?
committee put together. In the past, what we've used,
For which ones?
for any of the administrative positions, we'll have a committee together, and we'll include 1 or 2 board members on those committees. So once we get interviews set up, we'll ask who would like to be part of those. Obviously, we don't want a quorum there, but it's nice to have a board member or 2, at least to get their advice. Ultimately, I'll make the recommendation to the school board, but it's nice to hear what they have to say about all of our candidates also. We'll pick an air-conditioned room for interviews.
Anything else? On consent? No? Nothing?
Nothing?
Okay. Any other questions, or if you want to pull an item, this is the time to do it? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That's Tim Elke. Go to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes 6-0.
Guess I should have asked, was there anything added to that Samuels with his years of service? Or is that too late to ask? His military?
No, there was nothing added to it.
Sorry.
All right, we'll move on to item number 8, old business. 8A is approval of fiscal year 23 preliminary budget. Do we have a motion to approve for the preliminary budget?
Do we need to talk?
Comments now. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. For somebody, this is your 3rd time seeing this, but as Claudia mentioned, we did make a couple tweaks on the curriculum side. So as we got into it, it did bring our expenses down. There wasn't any changes on revenue since we last met. But ultimately with that, it was like $38,000 reduction with the curriculum changes. So as we get to the end here, oh, there it is. So we're down to $850,000. If you remember, 460 was kind of our break-even point. So we're still obviously at a loss for this budget, but some of that can be chalked up to, like I said before, that special ed cross subsidy, and some of it's just being conservative, either overestimating expenses or underestimating revenue. So And also, we still have ESSER 3 to kind of play the game if we want to supplant some dollars and use some of those. So I believe when we revise the budget, it'll be a little more illustrative of what the year will actually look like, especially now that we've had all this turnover too. Once we get those positions hired, we'll probably do an early revision just to kind of get all that captured. But with that being said, still looking, we reduced the expenses, so the policy target did go down a little bit as well, but we still am well in excess of our fund balance policy we had set. So even if that does come true, we're still not even using half of our available, I guess, whatever surplus you want to call. And then as we get into the other funds, so this is the document you're actually approving, because this will set up what needs to be the budget, but based on Tahar's RFP, I just plugged in their budget numbers. So we'll get into their RFP later, but their proposal promised us the $47,000 gain. So if we don't hit that target, they actually have to pay us to get up to it. So that's where that's set now. We didn't have that piece of the puzzle before. But other than that, this has all been what we had seen previously.
Matt, does this budget then include, for the two new
Social workers. Yeah.
Those?
It doesn't, because we had said when we set that assumption we weren't going to budget all the COVID funds, and they're going to fall into that. So I do have it in a budget, but it's not in this one.
That's going to go possibly into the COVID funds then?
Yeah.
ESSER $3.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know I couldn't remember how it was working, because we were also thinking if the state passed that budget that we were going to get some money from them to help cover, okay.
Right,
We
yeah,
at
you're
least have
right in your thinking of
Right.
if the state would have passed it, but we wanted to make sure we had it covered through ESSER dollars to begin with.
Yep,
So-
okay. And then I'm sorry, but that brought up another question is, so the scoreboards then for like construction stuff, I was just thinking the ESSER dollars that we were using, do we know when those are coming in and when they're going to be installed?
Those will be here the end of July, beginning of August.
So they'll be installed before the volleyball season
They're
starts?
supposed to be, yep.
Okay, all right.
Yep. And that technically isn't in the budget either, because once again, ESSER 3.
Yeah.
But, all of those are going to be budget neutral. If we put COVID stuff in there, all it would do is inflate, revenue would go up, expense would go up, but the end result would be the same. So
Okay.
until we get in play, and like I said, that supplant, we could, then we could bring down our expenses that way. But
Any more questions? Okay, now do we have an approval for the fiscal year 23 preliminary budget?
I'll make a motion to approve.
It's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any more questions? Or sorry, that was Kinder Hayne. Any further questions? Go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor say, all those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. 8B, approval third reading of several policies, 103, 404, 406, 406, 414, 416.
We have to approve these all separate, so we'll go. Policy 103 is our complaint policy. Essentially what we did is we added a form to it for individuals to be able to fill out for a complaint policy. So then we had to change some wording in our complaint policy to match the form. So that's 103 and 103 adding the form. So those are those two policies.
So do we have to approve both?
Yes. You have to approve the form and you have to approve the policy.
Okay. Any further questions? Is there a motion to approve policy 103 complaint policy?
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Elke. No more questions. We'll go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0.
We can get the next one.
Yep. Do we have a motion to approve policy 103 complaint policy?
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll
I'll-
second.
Go ahead.
That's Sherry Dashner. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0.
The rest of the policies, policy 404, 406, 406, that's a form, and then 414, 416, 416 form, 614, 614 the form, actually, we're getting rid of that form, and then 806.1 form, that has updated URLs. The rest of them are recommended changes that came from MSBA. So those changes were made, we talked about them, I think, during the first reading, the different changes, and then this is just the third reading to approve the changes that MSBA recommended to us.
Any questions on these? We'll go through them all together, well, not all at once, but
Individually.
all in a row. Do we have a motion to approve policy 404, employment background checks?
I'll make a motion to approve policy 404.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's Kendra Hayne. Go to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Policy 406. Do we have a motion to approve policy 406, public and private personal data?
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Kendra Hayne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Do we have a motion to approve policy 406, public and private personal data form?
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Elke. We'll go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Policy 414, motion to approve policy 414, mandated reporting and child neglect or physical or sexual. Is there more on there?
Abuse.
Abuse. It's on my screen.
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hayne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. We have a motion to approve policy 416, drug and alcohol testing.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 416.
It's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's Kendra Hayne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. We have a motion to approve policy 416, drug and alcohol testing forms.
I'll make a motion.
That's Sherry Dashner. Do we have a second?
A second.
That's Tim Burke. All those approve say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Do we have a motion to approve policy 614, district testing plans and procedures?
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hayne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Do we have a motion to approve policy 614, assurance of test security and non-disclosure form?
I'll make a motion for policy 614, disclosure form, non-disclosure form.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
A second.
That's Tim Burke. Go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. We have a motion to approve policy 806.1, form updated URLs.
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's Kendra Hayne. Go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Move on to item number 9, new business.
discuss anything here? We just-
Resolution, so it's a resolution relating to the election of school board members and calling the school board district general election. This is something we have to do for the school board election coming up in the fall.
So we just do roll call.
You need a motion.
Oh, we need a motion, sorry. Do we have a motion to approve 9A?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the election of school board members.
Do we have a second? Or sorry, that's Tim. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ken. Kendra got it.
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hayne. Roll call?
Cahill,
Yes.
Elke,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Dashner.
Yes.
We do a motion passes on that? Or is it?
Resolution passes 6-0.
Resolution passes 6-0. 9B,
That's a resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits for candidacy for school board members.
any questions?
Is
Yeah.
there a date determined or is it on there? I guess it didn't affect me. Or did we pick? a
August
date?
2nd.
August
through-
2nd.
August 2nd.
To the 16th.
It begins August 2nd, closes on August 16th. And it's a $2 filing fee.
Any further questions? We have a motion to approve the resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits of candidacy.
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Alke. Do we have a second?
I can second.
That's Tim Burke. Roll call.
Elke,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Dashner,
Yes.
Cahill.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6-0. 9D,
9C.
or sorry, 9C.
This is a resolution to continue our membership with the Minnesota State High School League. So this is something we have to fill out every year with or passed by our school board every year in order to continue to be members of the Minnesota State High School League.
Any questions? We have a motion to approve the resolution of membership in the Minnesota State High School League.
I'll make a motion.
It's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's Kendra Hayne. Resolution.
Burke,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Dashner,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Elke.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6-0. Now, move on to 9D.
If you haven't noticed that typically we stay with the federal reimbursement rate for standard mileage. So they did increase their rate to 62.5 cents per mile effective July 1st of 2022. I think currently we're at 54 cents.
58 and a half.
Oh, 58 and a half cents currently, so there is a link there if you want to look at the increase from the federal government, but or from the IRS, but in order for it to take effect, we need to approve that here.
Does this, and I was just reading this now for this, but it just says here for rate for remainder of 2022. So are they then, do we have to revisit this? I don't remember ever revisiting this.
I think it's usually a
It's
yearly
always
thing.
like we normally approve it at the January meeting, the organizational meeting.
So they upped it now?
Right. I think they
Because of-
recognize that
Yeah.
gas prices
Gas
going
inflation.
nuts.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because I was like,
Yeah.
we usually do this once a year, and
Right,
now,
because I remember doing it in January.
Right. I would still say our mileage reimbursements that we've been paying out are way. I mean, just the frequency is way down. You know, pre-COVID, it was
Yeah.
definitely more. So.
Any further questions? Do we have a motion to approve the increased mileage reimbursement?
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Sherry Dashner. Any more questions? Move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Move on to 9E.
9E is approval for an agreement with Taher for food service management service for the 22-23 school year, pending state approval of the contract. So, Matt, do you have anything to say?
No, obviously, when we went out for RFP, we would have hoped to get at least 2, but just with the nature of the market and our size, that didn't happen. But I think it's a very fair bid based on, we were paying 20 cents a meal for an administrative fee back 5 years ago, and now they've only raised it up to 25. So basically, we're looking at a cent a year increase there. As well as, like I mentioned earlier, the bid itself promises a break even on operations in excess of 47,000. So, it's not every day you get a bid that they're promising to make you money like that. So, now that is from food operations, because if some of you are thinking about that fund balance that we want to spend down, so that 47 is just from serving the meals. If we go and buy equipment or anything outside of that, that's when we can take that 47 and maybe turn it into a red figure to try to help our fund balance. And one of the things we talked about was like dishwashers thing, which we'll definitely look into that as it gets going. But yeah, other than that, the other thing is, if you notice the language in the line item there, it says pending state approval. So the last step here, now that I have their RFP and I have completed some other forms for them, I have to send that into the state, and they have to actually give their okay before we go ahead with it. But they said this is the way most people do it, is just pending that state approval, and then as long as that comes in, then we're good to go. They warn they're pretty backed up, as everything at the state is, so I'm not sure when we'll hear for it, but since we're not serving summer food, it's not really a concern for a little while here.
I know they're in the room. I don't know if we can ask this question directly to them, but do we have a timeline when somebody's going to be identified?
Hired as a director
Yeah.
prior to the school year is what the bid said.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know you guys are waiting for this step, but I'm guessing that'll get posted pretty quickly now.
Look it up or?
No, I'm positive it said prior to the school year.
I would assume.
I think we just said it was posted.
Oh, I think we said it was posted.
Probably is.
Any further questions? We have a motion to approve the agreement with Taher for food service management services for 2022 to 2023 school year, pending state approval of the contract.
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Elke. Any more questions? Go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Move on to item number 10. Approve the resolution accepting donations. Do motion
like
first
that.
or go through them first?
Go through them first.
Okay. So the donations are box tops for education, $15.80 for the snack cart, South Central Service Co-op, $250,000 CTE fax grant, Bulldog Backers, $500, JWP FFA grant, Compeer Financial, $4,000 agricultural education grant, Meadow Township, $100 community education expenses, and Meadow Township, $50 prom committee. Assume we have no questions on those?
It's a resolution.
So, yeah, roll call.
Do we have to do a
Do
motion?
you need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution with great thanks.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hain. Roll call.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
Dashner,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Elke,
Yes.
Burke.
Yes. Resolution passes 6-0. Item number 11, upcoming meetings. July 11th.
On that one, Tim, is the July 19th, are we moving the meeting to Tuesday night, or is that just a misprint? 'Cause I think July 18th is a Monday.
Might be a misprint on my part.
Oh,
Lights are off.
Must be.
Looking at the calendar.
The lights?
Okay.
It
should be
the 18th.
So
Oh,
change
I
be
see.
to July 18th, regular school board meeting, August 15th, regular meeting, followed by the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. Meeting is adjourned at
7:02.
7:02.
Did we not set a meeting for your evaluation?
No, Laura.